And the problem is, we're not having a debate about the European Union.
But people aren't worried that the Labour Party or the Conservative Party is spreading racist propaganda.
Well, why the Conservative Party got a former BNP activist standing for them in Lincolnshire? Will you ask the Conservative
Of course I will, absolutely.
No, but you won't, you see, because nobody
now
ever
you're
does.
calling me a liar. Of course,
nobody ever does.
I will, but I've answered your question. The reason why it doesn't possess the same urgency as the UKIP conversation does is, A, the question of quantity. There is simply not the avalanche of bigotry emerging from other parties that emerges from yours.
Oh, yes, there is.
And B, perhaps more pertinently for you then, there is not a fear abroad afoot. There is not a fear in the country. The opinion polls do not report significant swathes of the nation who are fearful, possibly wrongly, Nigel, that your party represents deeply divisive and racist ideas. If you'd let me finish, let me just move on then to that invitation to go overseas and listen to conversations in other countries where perhaps far-right politics are not viewed as askance as they are in this country. You've mentioned your discomfort at listening to foreign languages on a train recently.
I made the point that I got on a train and went for several stops, and there were a lot of people around me and no one spoke English. And I thought, this is... I didn't say I didn't object to it. I felt slightly uncomfortable. And I think, actually, isn't that the problem? Isn't this, of all the countries in Europe, the most accepting, the most tolerant?
You said, I don't feel very comfortable in that situation. You did say you had a problem.
I didn't feel comfortable, no.
Yes. Your wife is a German speaker.
Well, my children are too, yeah.
Does that make you feel uncomfortable?
No, because they can speak English, and the whole point about
how do you know those people couldn't?
Well, maybe they could, but I got the distinct feeling that it certainly wasn't their language of choice. And if you look at the primary school situation in the East End of London, where you've now got schools where a majority don't speak English, doesn't that say to us? Doesn't that say to us that what we want is a sensible, balanced immigration policy, where we want people with skills to come into Britain, but we also want integration in society.
Of course we do. And the schools you refer to, the pupils you refer to, are registered and recorded as having English as a second language. They're not registered and recorded as not being able to speak English. That's precisely that sort of...
some of both.
Well, yes, but no one's counted them, so your own children would fit into that category.
Well, hopefully, lots of people can speak different languages, but the point I'm making is, do we want to live in an integrated society?
No, forgive me. The point you're making is that schools in the East End are full of children who can't speak English. I just want you to recognise that's not true, what you just said. The children who are typified as speaking English as a second language would include your own daughters. Their mother tongue being German.
They come from homes where English is most definitely not the first language, and in too many cases is not the language at all. Now look,
but no one's counted how many people are in the second category.
And it would be a very helpful and useful thing if they did, and perhaps we'd be even more surprised and even more shocked. But the argument
or perhaps we'd realise that most bilingual children in this country are children like yours.
Well, let's turn it around the other way, shall we?
Yes, let's.
Let's talk about immigration. Let's talk about Europe. Let's talk about the European elections. I am making one very simple point. We cannot have any form of managed migration into Britain and remain a member of the European Union because we have an open door to nearly 500 million people. And the argument, James, I'm putting is this. We'd be far better to have an immigration policy that didn't, as it currently does, discriminate against engineers from India or doctors from New Zealand in favour of anybody, regardless of skill levels or backgrounds, coming from Southern and Eastern Europe. And that is the great debate. And when Nick Clegg took me on, and I tried to have that debate with him, and he was very reluctant on that particular point to engage. Cameron and Miliband run a country mile away from that debate, and that, I think, is at the heart of our relationship with Europe.
Indeed, and I mean, if that was the debate that you'd offered to have on this programme, we'd have it now, but what the caller asked you was why so many people think you're racist.
Yeah, well, I think, yes, we've had our idiots.
And part of the answer would be, you talk about children who can't speak English as a first language without mentioning it includes includes your own children.
I mean, what is racism? Is racism between races? I mean, I was talking about.
Well, don't you know? How can you say you're not something if you don't know what it is?
I mean, is race about colour? Is race about race, or is it about nationality? I made a comment there that wasn't intended to say any more that I felt uncomfortable about the rate and pace of change and numbers of people.
No, you felt uncomfortable about people speaking foreign languages, despite the fact that presumably your own wife does when she phones home to Germany.
Yeah, I don't suppose she speaks it on the train, That's
why not? Is she not allowed to? Can't she speak German wherever she wants? And what about the line about not wanting to live next door to Romanians? It's perfectly acceptable for people not to.
I was asked, if a group of Romanian men moved in next door to you, would you be concerned?
What about if a group of German children did? What's the difference?
The difference, and you know what the difference is.
No, I honestly don't. This is, I think, where the disconnect is between your position and mine. What is the difference?
We want an immigration policy based on controlling not just quantity but quality as well. And we have a problem that and unfortunately, those communist countries which I've visited, and I've visited the Roma encampments, and I've seen the real poverty that people live in, and we talk about exclusion in society. Go and see since the fall of communism, what has happened to the Roma communities in those countries. They don't get jobs, they get nowhere to live, and they have been forced, in many cases, to a life of crime. And what has happened with an open door is it's been an open invitation for the traffickers. Now, we all know this is going on.
Okay.
The Metropolitan Police
Trafficking is a crime, of course.
Trafficking is a crime.
And trafficked people are victims of crime.
Yes, and the Metropolitan Police have produced their crime statistics, and they're eye-watering. And I'm saying, let's get a grip on it.
I know you're saying that about Romanians, but why can't you understand how many people feel troubled that you're also talking about them? 32 million people are looking for jobs in Europe, and that big clunking fist pointing, saying that they're coming.
That was a provocative poster.
They're coming for your job. That frightens people.
Well,
people who are already here working.
Sadly,
people who my children go to school with. Their parents are troubled by the idea that they're now being demonised and typified. And you gloss so smoothly and so slickly demonising Romanians and demonising Germans.
I'm not demonising anybody.
You just asked you a question about Romanians, and you started talking about people traffickers.
I'm demonising a political class that has allowed us to have an open door to allow things like this to happen.
Okay, so when I say Romanian and you start talking about people traffickers, why didn't you say people are perfectly entitled to feel uncomfortable about living next door to people traffickers, wherever they're from? Why did you say Romanians?
I didn't say Romanians. I was asked a question. If a group of Romanian men moved in next to you, would you be concerned? And if you lived in London, I think you would be.
Yes. It's reported this morning, Nigel, that you pulled out of an interview on London Live because there was no makeup artist.
What a load of rubbish.
That's what
I'm
thought.
sorry. That's what I thought you can accuse me of many things, but not that.
Well, I've tried to, and I'm delighted you're so happy. I'm still utterly unpersuaded as to why you sit on a party with the leader of the Italian Lega Nord, a member of the Anders Breivik fan club. I'm completely I do not understand why you use words like Romanian when describing who you would and would not want to live next door to. I don't understand why you're uncomfortable listening to foreign languages when your own wife and children speak them. And I don't understand why you talk about problems in primary schools that are caused by children like your own.
Why don't you? I tell you what, why don't you come and meet UKIP's black and ethnic candidate? Hang on.
Some of my best friends.
Hang on. Well, very interesting. Did you see the opinion poll at the weekend that showed amongst the BME community, UKIP is now polling at 16%. We're getting more BME voters than the Conservatives and Lib Dems added up together. So there are a large number...
I will come with you, and you come with me and meet the opinion poll also at this weekend that found, I think, just over 40% of voters who think that your party is racist.
What
do you think you've done in the last 20 minutes? I know we don't have any longer. I was hoping for an hour, but what do you think you've done in the last 20 minutes to assuage the fears of those people?
Made it clear to people that actually controlling the quantity and quality of people that come into your country is a primary duty of government, and we cannot do it as members of the European Union.
The leader of the UK Independence Party, Nigel Farage, says he regrets some of the words he used in a controversial interview about Romanians living in Britain. On LBC Radio on Friday, he said people had a right to be concerned if a group of Romanian men moved in next door. Well, our political correspondent Vicky Young is at Westminster for us now. Vicky?
Well, Nigel Farage does have a reputation as a blunt, straight-talking man, and really part of his appeal is that he often says things that other politicians wouldn't dare to say, particularly on the issue of immigration. But the criticism after his comments about Romanians has been sharper than usual. The Deputy Prime Minister, Nick Clegg, said today that the UKIP leader's mask was slipping to reveal what he called an extremely nasty view of modern Britain. Well, tonight the UKIP leader seems to have rowed back on his comments, insisting that he wasn't suggesting that all Romanians are bad people.
I regret the fact that I was sort of completely tired out, and I didn't use the form of words in response that I would like to have used. I should have just hit back immediately and said, look, understand there is a real problem here. You can't deny it. Too much criminality from those gangs from Romania has come to London. I could have been clearer, but you know what? In life, sometimes we get things wrong.
Please welcome to the stage Britain's biggest joker, Nigel Farage. Settle down, settle down. Right, there's an Englishman, an Irishman and a Bulgarian. And the barman says to the Bulgarian, get out. You're taking a job that traditionally belongs to a Scotsman. Not racist at all. I was just tired. Here's one. Why is UKIP like ISIS? They're both happy to see Muslims leave the country. What? Self-deporting Muslims? What's not to like? Bloody lefties. Who picked this audience? Haven't gone down this badly since I had my plane crash.
No, you mean car crash? We saw the leaders' debate.
Very funny. Somebody check his passport. Only having a bit of fun with you, unless you are foreign. Not racist, just good old vote-winning casual bigotry. Mine's a pint.
Well, Well, Nigel Farage and UKIP have, of course, been under intense scrutiny. Some of his candidates have been accused of making racist comments, and he's vowed to root them out of the party. But he feels he does have a powerful message, which is striking a chord with many voters ahead of the European and local elections later this week. And he certainly doesn't want to spend his time between now and then standing there and having to defend himself to say that he's not a racist.
You want free speech? Let's see you acknowledge a man whose words make your blood boil, who's standing center stage and advocating at the top of his lungs that which you would spend a lifetime opposing at the top of yours. You want to claim this land as a land of the free? Then the symbol of your country cannot just be a flag. The symbol also has to be one of its citizens exercising his right to burn that flag in protest. Now show me that. Defend that. Celebrate that in your classrooms. Then you can stand up and sing about the land of the free. I've known Bob Rumson for years, and I've been operating under the assumption that the reason Bob devotes so much time and energy to shouting at the rain was that he simply didn't get it. Well, I was wrong. Bob's problem isn't that he doesn't get it. Bob's problem is that he can't sell it. We have serious problems to solve, and we need serious people to solve them. And whatever your particular problem is, I promise you, Bob Rumson is not the least bit interested in solving it. He is interested in two things, and two things only: making you afraid of it and telling you who's to blame for it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you win elections.